as they did not pick up that Grace, because if Sustain or even Lara, if Sustain is the key to any matchups, then definitely the Sustain heroes will be up, because we know the CC roamers, the roamers that have got plenty full crowd controls are being banned out. We have Lance banned out. We have Catherine. Although Catherine is a rather peculiar ban, we haven't quite seen a lot of emphasis of Catherine, but we do see Idris actually getting led through over to the side of Bren Esports. With that, Bren Esports can ban out the Black Feather at this point in time, can ban out the Glaive as well, which would pose a threat to Idris in that of late game.
Yeah, we're seeing a first pick on the Idris. That's something that most teams haven't been doing today. He's still a really strong pick, so it's not a bad idea. Now you can ban, they have the Glaive option to ban, maybe a Cruel. They get another Black Feather and said they don't want to play Idris Black Feather as a combination. It does work really well together. They want to get rid of the Black Feather and maybe pick up a Celeste or Scarf as their last pick, depending on how the draft goes and if that's a reasonable counter. They're not going to be able to pick up Celeste because it's just been banned away. That's a really common ban strategy. If one team gets rid of the Black Feather, you're forced to ban Celeste. Maybe with the Arden, they don't want to have to flex the Lance. They want to have to force themselves to put a Lance in jungle. And now that would be a very likely pick. So Lance was banned, which is why they don't want to go against the Celeste. Now the Grace is obviously the most likely pick. But obviously Lyra is still available. I still think Grace would do much better with Idris.
Definitely. So Grace, if Grace was picked up by the side of Bren Esports, then definitely, you know, the side of Divine Aurora or Diva can just easily pick up the Glaive to run that in the jungle, come up for, you know, very frequent ganks against the Idris. If not, then just match Idris in terms of lane. And that way they can just pick up Scarf for themselves. That is a possibility. If not, then we've seen Castrol as well. A couple of changes made to Castrol in the current patch, but all in all, it is still a very, very strong laner and will do well against Idris in that early game. So I'm not surprised at this point in time if they will just secure the Glaive and of course the Scarf for themselves. It's just because it just works so well together, removing a mage, you know, from the entirety of the equation and picking up Scarf for themselves will definitely win Diva this draft. However, the side of Bren Esports still have a Samuel that's open for them. And Samuel against a Scarf in the early game, Samuel will definitely win now.
Yeah, I think the Scarf is the smartest pick for Divine Aurora here, unless they want something like a Fortress and just go aggressive, go dive in against the Idris. They're going to go to Sky. So that's most likely a lane Crystal Sky. We've seen Sky come back towards the meta a little bit. And I'm not quite sure why they've gone for that as opposed to the Scarf, because Scarf's still available for Bren Esports to pick. They could go Weapon Idris lane, does well against the Sky. In fact, does really well because you can just dive in, stick on top of her when she Sui strikes with your Shimmer Strike. And we're going to see a Weapon Power Petal, I hope, but most likely that's going to be a CP Petal. It's really good against Sky and it works quite well against Glaive. So most likely it's going to be either double CP or Weapon Idris lane.
Yep, I don't think it will be a double CP. I don't think Idris will be placed in the CP role, to be completely honest. We saw that coming up for the side of Nebulae in that first game with, you know, double Shatterglass into a Broken Myth, double Shatterglass, and then of course you have the alternating current. But a lot of players haven't quite been excelling at picking up the CP Idris. As we know, only Nebulae, or rather Trophies at this point in time, won with it. Even Spaghetti lost with a CP Idris previous week. So it'll probably be a CP. It will definitely work better in the draft that's coming out from Bren Esports. But of course the sustain and of course the divine intervention coming out from Grace would definitely help Idris in that early game. A rather peculiar and a change of taste in terms of rotations coming out from Diva at this point in time, going for the Elder Tree and first, so that it's not much of a competition later on. However, with that, Guessing can actually just head into the back lines, or rather the back of the jungle of Divine Aurora and just remove the farm from there, but we are not seeing that quite happen.
Yeah, very interesting, because we said Divine Aurora are unlikely to be going too aggressive, but they decided to go for the Elder, pretty confident that Sync1 and Mr. Jim would not be there trying to contest that Elder. Minion Candy used by Bren, they want to go in on Spitfire. He's going to take some damage from the Petal, and it is Weapon Petal in the jungle. Unless Sync1 has got that for clear speed, we are going to see a weapon Petal in. What do you think about this pick, Luxuria? Actually, Nancy comes up into lane, has an afterburn available, going to afterburn Mr. Jim. He's going to heal and blast to try and keep himself alive, and Mr. Jim will most likely be able to survive. There's a nice block from Guessing on the for barrage, and Guessing actually doing tons of damage with that with the Grace, and Mr. Jim is just poking the chakram. So we're going to see a CP lane Idris. And what do you think of this weapon jungle Petal?
Well,
don't laugh, it's serious.
Yeah,
Very serious, Luxuria.
Very serious.
Leonti's in lane. He's waiting for the afterburn. Mr. Jim is very aggressive. It's going to be afterburn into the wall. That'll be a first blood. No question. Leonti picks it up. And Guessing X wants to return the favour and will onto Spitfire 101. But will Guessing full glaive trying to start a step to get the kill, but will not be able to. Sing One going to get the second Elder Tree. And now I believe you'll be able to talk about this jungle weapon battle.
Well, I guess it's viable, all in all, but don't laugh. This is serious.
Very serious, Mr. Luxuria.
Okay, so there you go. Sync 1 on a weapon battle in jungle. I would not say it's the most terrible pickup, all in all, but issue with that is that Petal really needs 2 to 3 items to start, working and putting out damage. Granted, being in the jungle, you get your trampoline overdriven faster, you get your 7 attack range, so I guess that is one thing that's going for you. But, I guess CP is just much cheaper all in all, and it scales your Munion's health as well. That way you can just, like said, can tank up a lot of damage coming up from skies for a barrage. But because you're weapon battle, you do not have the liberty of just blocking out the forward barrage coming up from the sky, and you will be a relatively easy target because of how squishy your Munions generally will be running the weapon power build.
Yes, as a weapon power battle, your Munion's 3 gold guy at this point. It just becomes have 2 free gold on me whenever you want to forward barrage. I maybe it'll add up at the end of the game to possibly 5 CS maybe for killing as a weapon petal, killing her Munions. But that's not really much of a consideration. And Sick One's going to be in lane. Level 5 already, so is Neonti. They're taking their jungle pretty much alone. So both junglers being free to farm up. But Sick One is going to stop the back port and do a lot of damage onto Neonti. He's going to have to back off. And yeah, now Sick One does want to port home. That's nice port animation on the Bug Petal. It seems a bit obnoxious. It's just like, why is Bug Petal's port animation so much bigger than everyone else's? Like, just have a nice small port home animation like Mr. Jim did.
Yeah, but I mean, she's wider after all. She's thick. But
can't say that to a Petal. I can't believe you'd say that, Luxuria. Yeah, it's just going to be very passive because we said earlier that Petal needs to be aggressive early game and needs to snowball. But as weapon, that's completely different. You need to get Solar Blade, get Tornado Trigger, get towards your second Tornado Trigger, then you can start fighting. And so we're really going to see what stronger late game. Is it CP just weapon Petal, or is it CP Sky weapon Glaive? I would hasten to say that the CP just weapon Petal will actually be stronger because they have 2 very strong late game carries as opposed to just 1 really on the side of AURORA.
Yep, so this is the issue, honestly. Neon C now already picking up that of attention bow, so a lot of damage will be coming up from him. Sequan though.
Oh, but he tension hooks on the Munion. That is not what Neon C's going to have to wait 6 seconds for that tension mode to come back up, and if I doesn't manage to secure that mid tower. But that's one thing that we didn't talk about, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it is just, running the weapon battle, you have a pseudo frostbite, or rather not pseudo frostbite, but pseudo shiver steel for yourself, and on top of that as well, you have a barrier of sorts in some of the Munions because of the running bug. I'm not sure if it's applicable in the tournament server, but we know in the live server that it's this slight bug that it's just quite difficult to tap on Petal if Petal is standing together with the Munions.
Yeah, it doesn't really make much of a difference in a team fight. But as you saw there in the engage, when Leonti tried to engage on Petal with little time to actually focus, it was just like, oh, I see a Petal attack, and it attacked the Munion by accident. So that is something that Sync One will have in his favour if he does accidentally face check a bush that Glaive is in. But in most team fights, yeah, that doesn't make much of a difference, which is why Petal isn't seen every game. Because if it was impossible to attack Petal when she had Munions, that would be quite quite an important bug to try and fix, but yeah, it's
definitely.
Not really in the same level. And again, Mr. Jim going for the Shatterglass first on Idris as opposed to going for Frostburn, which is very, very interesting. I expected a Frostburn just to try and help land the poke on Sky, but maybe because she's so mobile with Sui Strike anyway, it's just not worth it. And there's going to be a bit of poke in lane. Neonsea going to try and help Sky clear this wave up, but both teams going to back off. And actually, it's quite hard for Spitfire to farm up. He's doing well. He's on 62, but Mr. Jim is ahead on 71 on this Idris.
Yep, I want to say something rather ridiculous, although I've been saying things that have been very ridiculous throughout my casting life. But honestly, Sync1's DPS is not looking as terrible as I thought it would be running it in the jungle. I mean, the basic attacks of Petal, and what makes Petal so good is because of the extra range you get from Trampoline. You would not expect Petal to have, incredible basic attack damage as compared to CP, and thus, her kit is just built around CP. Munion's scale with CP, but a lot of lane pressure now coming up from the side of Divine Aurora, but really no follow-up whatsoever.
Yeah, Brenny able to clear the wave, try and push back. Guessing X still has not got the Echo on Grace, so it's not the best time for them to fight because he hasn't got the Divine Intervention either, but Fountain is up. Sky, very interesting death from above, probably a misclick there. Is Bren going to go in with the Trampoline? That means Petal's got the increased range.
Wow.
That is 351 times to 702 damage from Mr. Jim onto Spitfire. Just massive burst with this Shatterglass first, and we're going to have a pause to try and sort out any connection issues the players might be having. I understand why teams go Frostburn first on Idris to guarantee those Chakram hits, but if you can land the Chakram with Shatterglass first, it does so much work. As you just saw, 700 damage just straight up on Spitfire. He's forced to back off immediately.
Yep, definitely. And on top of that as well, I guess, all in all, it works very well for the side of Bren Esports. And maybe I may just jump ship over to your side and say Bren has got a stronger draft at this point in time, only because I'm seeing the amount of damage that, the heroes that the players are putting out just 7 minutes, close to 8 minutes in. So Guessing will be a very good front liner, yeah? So Guessing will be in front, soaking up as much damage as possible, and then you have Sync1 and Mr. Jim just putting out so much range damage, and the fact that you have only Neonsea to just jump to the backlines. Granted, you have Spitfire as well that can Sui Strike the backlines, but once Mr. Jim or Sync1 immediately change target onto you, you will be in for a very, very bad time.
Yeah, definitely. Sync1 has not got anywhere near Tornado Trigger because Mr. Jim has been taking a little bit of CS away from Sync1 in the jungle. I think Spitfire is doing similarly because, as you know, he's only on 77 CS to Mr. Jim's 90. So there has been quite a lot of fun. We'll see. We are restarting the game now. That's 2 minutes of maximum pause per team, but that's now over. So hopefully all the issues are resolved. Mr. Jim's going to try and seize this turret. There's another double shackle, 340 that time. Not sure why it's a little bit lower. Probably the Vanguard giving him a bit of help. And Mr. Jim is just there, just doing so much work. And Divine Auroras don't really know what to do at the moment. They have to try and poke. They have to try and get Sky with a good forward barrage. Obviously, taking a little bit of poke. There's definitely that is a landed onto Mr. Jim. That's what they need. Divine Intervention is up though for Guessing X. So that is an easy ultimate to keep Idris alive. Fountain's still available because Majin had to use his after the double shackling from Idris, and that minion was secured by Sync1. Neonsea forced the boots away, so this could be a gold mine, but Spitfire wants to 2v1 against Guessing, and there's Bren going up. Sync1 is in lane. One more basic attack from Petal will secure the kill. Idris rolling in just to try and make sure that Sky is already dead, and now Bren, instead of going for the gold mine, easily going to be able to pick up this tier 1 turret, and now Sync1 can afford the Tornado Trigger when he goes down to shop, but it doesn't look like he's going to shop yet. Neonsea going to get stunned up, and now he is going to turn around onto Guessing, and Sync1 going to port home, and Bren pretty happy with that.
Yep, another very thick, what is it called? The port home animation.
Yeah, port home.
But we saw...
Recall, maybe.
Recall, there you go. But we saw Neonsea able to put out so much damage, but the issue with the damage that's coming out from Neon-C, it's not that it's not great, but it's more of Neon-C unable to actually go into the backlines, take down Mr. Jim or Sync1. Because if he does go into the backlines, then Sync1 change target, and it's all down to the same story. We saw Neon-C just now goes in with the afterburn, but there was no follow-up whatsoever because all the damage that Neon-C is put out is just nullified by Guessing's Divine Intervention. So with the Echo up now, with Guessing's Divine Intervention, that it will be very, very difficult for the entirety of Divine Aurora to just continuously put pressure. I'm actually quite surprised as to why, you know, the side of Divine Aurora did not just settle for that Scarf, because Spitfire, another mage main as well, so Spitfire can easily just Spitfire his way through draft, but he just decided that, you know, Sky is a more applicable pickup all in all.
Guessing X going to take a lot of poke from Neon-C Tension Mode proc, whose Sync1 has now got Soul Blade Tornado Trigger, so first Power Spike really for Weapon Petal, gets another massive one once he gets his second Tornado Trigger, and Guessing X has got the Echo, so Bren Esports in a fantastic position to fight. They really are going to be able to sustain themselves throughout it, and they have got a reasonable gold lead. Nice, easy central rotation. Neon-C is going to try and defend this by himself. Sky had to port home, so Bren able to take the sentry down, and Neon-C really can't do anything apart from secure himself 6 gold, taking out Mundians, and that's really all he's going to get from that. So very good for Bren. They're going to keep pushing their gold lead, probably going to take the backs together, try and farm Mr. Jim up again. I think they are hyper farming Mr. Jim. It's a very, very common tactic in SEA to just hyper farm your carry, especially if it's a CP made, to try and get them to their power spikes as quick as possible, whereas Sync1 will just survive with a bit less gold.
Ooh, I really like the crit animation of Petal. It shoots out
It is awesome. It is awesome.
It's just a bigger blob of ball, to be honest. So, you know, with the lane pressure coming out from Neon-C earlier on, you would think that they would be able to just out-farm and out-poke Mr. Jim, but Mr. Jim doing very well, just going into the bags of Petal, just, you know, clearing farm with her and just allowing himself to be hyper-farmed up. So I guess, you know, the change of tactics over right now, and the adaptation coming out from Bren Esports is definitely what they're going to win the game. But however, we do see another just, you know, stagnated period of time at this point in time. And this is one thing that I was talking about earlier on. The side of Divine Aurora really wants to farm up against the early game comp that, you know, Bren Esports is bringing out.
Yeah, they do, and there's going to be a bit of poke coming out from Spitfire, trying to get that flash, but a lovely poke on it by Mr. Jim, and Sync1 trying to trample it possible. There's going to be a couple of basics on Spitfire, not too much. Vanguard was used to keep him healthy, but now the Vanguard is not up. There's going to be another double Chakram onto the turret and basic attacks as well. Mr. Jim will be able to secure the turret with that Chakram, and now Bren, that is their time to fight. Sync1 going in, but after Bren away. 388 crit from Petal with a nice big blob to make sure everyone knows that's going to crit. And actually, Sync1, I think, no, Mr. Jim managed to secure the Korean, but now Bren are going to be able to get this once again sentry, and Margin bought 4 minion candies before that fight to try and keep pushing the wave and possibly fight under sentry, but he just wasn't able to. They couldn't fight under sentry because they were all too low, and now they're probably going to give away this gold mine, but Bren actually have to rotate to lane to stop Divine Aurora taking away the tier 1 turret. And now Neon-C can do a lot of damage to Guessing X, but that's not the target you want. Sync1 is going to jump away from Death Above. Mr. Jim is stuck inside, but that's a lovely double Chakram on Spitfire and Neon-C. So Spitfire has to back off 400 on the Chakram. And he's going to go in. Fountain used by Margin. The Guessing X going to go in, but a lovely Earthbend to punt him out of his Holy Nova. Mr. Jim going to get a kill onto Sky. Going to get a double. Can he get the triple? Will Petal have anything to say about it? No! Mr. Jim with the triple kill and the ace for Bren Esports.
But
Where's the minions?
Let's admit it, that it was Petal that, you know, provided a slow. Mr. Jim then could just jump into the backlines, but really good execution all in all coming out from Bren Esports right there. I was really doubting when I saw Petal in the jungle. I was honestly just doubting the efficacy or the efficiency that Petal can farm up. But I guess if you cannot get enough farm in that jungle, then you just want to push objectives at the end of the day. And Vainglory is just an objective-heavy game. The better you can push objectives, the more and the higher chance. Oh, damn, those big pink blobs is just insane to look at. But, you know, honestly, the faster you can push objectives, the higher chance you actually can win your game. Unless, of course, like you say, you know, Spitfire gets, you know, 4 damage items or 3 damage items, and with that, pull out some sort of miracle and Spitfire his way through 5 turrets and then win the game.
There's definitely going to have to be some sort of miracle, as you say, for Divine Aurora to try and turn this around. They need some divine intervention, but they haven't got grace, and it's definitely going to be tough.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, that was nice. So Sync 1 has got his help in infusion, so this is a good time for Bren to fight. Spitfire hasn't, because he's just focusing on those items. He needs to get 4 damage items, really. 3 isn't enough at this point. And this Crystal Sentry is coming involved. Raw Treads by Guessing X, just to make sure this Sentry is now eliminated. I thought that was the 3rd charge, and it is. So now Divine Aurora are in a tough position. Boots by Margin, will it be enough? Petal still doing loads of work. Gauntlet extremely defensive by Margin to keep himself alive, and now Bren Esports free to take all the jungle or the Kraken, and they're probably going to try and just push their gold lead ahead and bait a fight around this Kraken, and then if they win the fight, they win the game. If they get the Kraken, they can probably push for the win. And yeah, Mr. Jim with his 4 full items, he can even upgrade his boots and re-infuse, just because why not? In fact, no, he can so now Margin, he thinks maybe they're on Kraken, maybe we should fight, maybe you shouldn't fight Margin. Almost going to fall. Leonti is going to use his Blood Song, nowhere near enough damage from him. Petal secures the kill on that one. Nice. Series strike from Spitfire actually. Petal gets a double. Now is Petal going to get the triple? Mr. Jim got the last one. Now Sync 1 wants to get his own. Mr. Jim's going to do a lot of damage on Spitfire. And Petal does get a triple! A triple for Mr. Jim. Sync 1 returns with his own. Mr. Jim's going to try and push down 1 turret while Guessing X and Sync 1 take the Kraken. And Bren looking dominant in this game.
Looking dominant, maybe an understatement. They are just looking so incredibly strong at this point in time, and we came out. We are basically stripped right.
Mr. Jim could be in trouble. Mr. Jim Vignonsi has got Margin. Come and help him out. Mr. Jim, try and to the glaive.
Wow.
Shutdown. 600 shutdown. Probably, maybe only 450 actually. Onto the glaive. This could be important. Maybe this is the time when Divine Aurora can turn this around, because Kraken is up, but Mr. Jim will not be there to push it, and all 3 members of Divine Aurora are still up. Maybe Mr. Jim getting a little bit too aggressive and trying to push down the turret. The Sync 1 is going to jump through the wall, going to block a bit too late, not necessarily. He's going to block the upper as well. Nyonti not going to get too much onto Sync 1. He's going to Divine Intervention a bit early. Stun, not quite going to stun Guessing X out of Divine Intervention, but that is another kill for Divine Aurora. Will it be the turnaround? Bren is going to go down, and that is not the game for Bren Esports. Mr. Jim is still in base, and Nyonti is able to take down this Kraken. Is this possibly the turnaround? 500 gold and 2 shutdowns for Divine Aurora. It was almost a 10k gold lead. Now it's going to be closer to about 6k after this Kraken, maybe even 5.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, what happened then was just a 1v3, if not then a 3v2. So I don't think it is fair to say it will be this turnaround. And honestly, the entirety of Bren Esports can just work a backdoor, work the struts, go in and just destroy that Vein Crystal. So honestly, whether you say it's a turnaround, they must first catch out Mr. Jim or Sync 1, and then afterwards jump on to Sync 1 or Mr. Jim and get Sync. So
yeah, this could be the turnaround, but there are still 5 turrets that Divine Aurora have to get through. So that's at least 2 team fights, probably 3. And now Bren hiding in the bush, but they always put it out. Spitfire wants to put home. They're not together. Spitfire is alone. Lovely afterburn to push back Mr. Jim. Now Sync 1 going to get the divine intervention a little bit too early, actually. And Guessing X has got almost towards the Shattered Glass, and now Margin is forced to back off into the base. And now there's over the wall. Sync 1 actually misses the wall jump on the Petal, but the Death and Rub will zone him away. Mr. Jim now trying to push through the base. Actually, the Kraken did get 2 turrets, so yeah, it's not bad for Brentron. They can just front door at this moment. They're going to try and get the kill. There's the gauntlet. Not going to get a stun. Mr. Jim going to get bursted down to nothing. So much damage at once, and there's going to be the ultimate divine defension. And onto Sync 1. Can he do the place? Double for Sync 1. Nyonti will stop the triple. That is not the game for Bren Esports. Divine Aurora turning it around just slightly. That was a 3v3 fight, Luxuria, and Divine Aurora came out as even as Brenchong did, possibly even ahead.
Oh, wow, that was definitely, that may be the turnaround for Divas right now, as we see Neon C just strutting down lane with that big minion wave, and they can definitely take at least the turret away from that of Bren Esports. If this is the case, the classic case of the turnaround in Vainglory, then I must say the weapon battle in jungle just doesn't work out.
No, I don't think the weapon battle jungle. I don't think you can claim that as a victory. I don't like weapon battle jungle. I think the problem was Mr. Jim and then Sync1 and Guessing X just trying to fight not as a team. And in that last fight, Mr. Jim still doesn't have any defense. He picked up War Treads instead of Aegis. If Mr. Jim bought Aegis, he survives that fight. He wins the fight, wins the game. He just still needs to get it now. He's going to 1v1 Leonsi. Possibly Mr. Jim taking a lot of damage. But so Margin taking a lot of damage, and now Sync1 going to jump over the wall. Leonsi, he's going to try and pump back. He can pump back Guessing X successfully, and now Sync1 just doing a bit of work. But they're going for the back door. And will he stop the ports? Idris going for the back door. Leonsi is going to get home, but no, they're just going to stop the ports and then jump over the wall. But so can Margin with the gauntlet. But there is no chance for Spitfire to get over the wall, and the back door is successful. Bren Esports almost throwing that game away, but in the end, let's just take the Vein Crystal down. It's exposed.
Yep, very well played coming out from both teams right there. Divine Aurora really shaky in that early game, Divine Aurora really shaking throughout the entirety of the game, but when a glimmer of hope just shine into them, and when Grays actually